This session will be exploring on some of the ongoing initiatives in the sector, alongside the related achievements, challenges, and opportunities and outlook. And talking about outlook here, we are saying that yes, with 2028 just behind the corner, how has your organization innovated its clean cooking programs in response to the changing local and international context?
All right. Thank you, Kitala, and yeah, I will take that, but I guess Loranda will be shuffling his way. I work with GIZ, and most of us know GIZ has been in the cooking space for a while. Most of us could be aware of the Energizing Development Program, under which most of our clean cooking initiatives in the country have been undertaken. And then just a brief one down memory lane. The program has been here for close to 2 decades now. And so many things have happened over time, right from its inception until date, until today. The beauty is, since the start of NDEV and the focus on clean cooking aspects, we see whatever has happened since then. Each one of the things that we do today builds on what has been done before. And I think the most crucial one for this maybe discussion, Kitala, would be how have we been doing clean cooking initiatives around the country? When all this started, you realize we focused a lot of specific aspects of the value chain. So you look at talking about specific stoves, technologies, how do we help the producers, the suppliers of these technologies to get into the market? How do we ensure that these stoves meet some specific criteria as per the existing global requirements or global definitions? But now again, we've transitioned all the way from just focusing on one part of the value chain, say the technologies themselves, to now looking at the entire value chain. So most of our initiatives, and I'll mention what's happening on the GCF program, you realize it builds a lot on the NDEV project that was done before. We're looking at the successes we had at that time under NDEV and realizing if we maintain the status quo, we'll only realize until about 5% of annual growth in terms of adoption of improved cooking solution at the country level. But the question is, how do you ensure, with the ambitious targets by the government, 2028 around the corner, how do we multiply this effect to something slightly bigger? And you realize, moving from NDEV, the GCF stroke BMZ funded program comes in and says, let's scale up this potential effect. And how do we do this? Now, we do not only focus on one part of the value chain, but we look at it across the board, so from the supply side to the demand side. And so we realize GIZ has been looking at this. Let's not just focus on one thing. Let's look at the entire value chain and realize much more effects. Maybe the thing I would mention before handing over back to you is, how have we been doing this? You realize that GIZ, we've been known for things around result-based financing approaches. Some of the innovative models talk about how do we finance cooking solutions. We've, together with SNV, we've implemented RBF projects on clean cooking space, which ended, and I think there are more, there's a possibility, these discussions are coming up on the potential of RBFs to scale up clean cooking initiatives. So these things also coming up, things that we're hoping the sector can also pick up and to proceed. But also just beyond, you realize before it was more about the IC, the improved cook stoves sector. Now we're talking about way higher, more higher tier technologies coming in. And I know the ABC program will be coming at some point, so Flora will talk about that. But we're now talking about e-cooking now happening. These also, so we're transiting over time, not just focusing on one thing, on one technology, the improved cook stoves, but also other possible ways of clean cooking are coming in. The bioethanol, the e-cooking aspects are coming up. So you realize within GIZ, we're looking at it in so many ways. We're leveraging on lessons learned from one phase to define what happens in the next phase. Given the issue of 28 target that we have, we're saying, let's use all possible solutions to ensure that we realize success by 2028. And so not only focusing on improved cook stoves, but also saying, why don't we look at other higher tier solutions? That's it, Kitala.
Thanks, Fred. I think that is well put. We know that the GIZ has been a pioneer in this sector, with starting with the basic ICS as part of an agriculture program, and we have seen that grow in terms of scope, but also GIZ has brought on board more partners to work with, and I think the journey continues. So still while there, let's look at the ABC project, which is one of the offshoots of the many initiatives, and this is about biogas. Flora, can you tell us about the ABC project and the added value in the Kenya clean cooking space, especially looking at, considering the fact that for over 10 years we have had a biogas program in this country?
Yes, thank you very much, Kitana. So we call it the African biodigester component. So even in the name, there is already a slight innovation. So we don't talk about only the biogas, but also the bioslurry to improve the business model of biodigesters, to make them more affordable and bring more benefits for households. I think we're going in the same direction as the government of Kenya, so to have more higher tier and universal access of clean cooking by 2028. So we would like to contribute to the objectives of reaching 5% of households with biogas. I think one of the added value is the enabling environment part. So there is a strong biodigester construction sector from the fixed dome and also the prefabricated, but there's no one-stop shop, so that's a bit problematic. So we're really happy to work with the ministry to develop an innovation platform, to have everyone on board and at the same table, from Masons to all the way to multinational biodigester companies. The second aspect we are adding in the discussion is the medium-scale biodigester or commercial biodigesters. So the majority of the biodigesters currently in Kenya are from 0 to, let's say, maximum 12, 16 cubic meters to serve domestic farmers. And we have an objective of 250 medium scale, so from 50 to 500, to make sure that commercial farms with 20, 30 cows can also benefit from the technology. First, from the environmental point of view, to treat the effluent, and second, to work on productive use of energy. And yeah, just to provide also new markets for biodigester companies. I think what we want to do is just to provide the last push to the market. So again, through an RBF, which is a bit complicated this time. So it's not only on selling the technologies, it's also ensuring the functionality, because that's one of the main issue, if not the main issue in the biodigester sector, is you are selling a technology that is very expensive, and if it doesn't work, no one is going to buy it for, and it's a problem for all the actors in the market. So again, the RBF will be strong on the functionality, the use of bioslurry also, which is the last aspect in terms of added value, is to also work on the bioslurry part and the fertilization. So we are working with research centers, but also with implementers, to make sure that the biodigester companies, they are also being trained on the best practices for fertilization, and also that we have good standards also for, like, it's a bit complicated for the audience, but for, let's say, for organic fertilizers. So yeah, these are the 4 points, 4 added values that I see.
Thanks, Flora. So we are moving up the ladder, beginning with the initial basic biomass stoves to much more cleaner cooking solutions like biogas through the ABC project, and both of them have spoken about RBF, the importance of ensuring that as we move up the ladder, we ensure that these cooking solutions are affordable. So I would like us to talk about RBF, and we have with us Myra from the ministry, the KOSAP project, which we know has an RBF component on clean cooking technologies. So Myra, we would like you to tell us how the RBF component of KOSAP has or is facilitating this sustainable transition to clean cooking solutions for people in the underserved regions of this country.
Thank you, Kitala. Just to give a bit of a background, the Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project is a 5-year project, started in 2017, ending in 2023, with an aim of enhancing access to renewable energy solutions in 14 underserved counties in Kenya. And these counties are in the northwest, northeast, and southeast, the coastal region of Kenya. So there are other components we deal with, mini-grid, solar water pumps, and so on, but the focus of today is the clean cooking. So the clean cooking subcomponent is dealing with distribution, or rather the sale, incentivizing private sector to be able to go to these counties and sell their products. We realize that these counties in the northwest, northeast, and southeast are underserved because they are sparsely populated, they have poor infrastructure, they are cash poor, they have challenges to do with security. There's a lot of challenges that have made it a barrier for private sector to go into these counties. So the innovation that we have made as KOSAP using the RBA facility is to incentivize private sector to move into these counties. We are giving them finances. The typical result-based finance model is once you sell the product, it is verified, we check that it has been sold, then we give you an incentive. But our model is a bit different because we give you market development incentives. So an advance payment is made for you to go into these counties, set up your shops, do after-sale service, recruit local agents, create awareness on the product. So for sustainability, it's not just someone coming out of the county, selling a stove, and going back maybe to Nairobi. This person has to set up a sustainable supply chain such that if a user wants to maybe replace their stove or buy any product, it is available. The service provider is actually on site. And another thing I just wanted to emphasize, just like GIZ has said, we are technology neutral. And in the design of the project, there was a lot of market assessment. And I think for sustainability, you need to learn what is the willingness to pay, what is the ability to pay, what is the infrastructure available in the areas you're conducting your market assessment. So this promotes sustainability in that you have already set up a baseline of what the products are likely, what the end user is likely to require in order to acquire the product. Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. Time permitting, we will come back and look at some aspects of RBF and see how is it stimulating the market without also causing market distortion. I would like us to move on and look at another important aspect of supporting last mile distribution or access through enterprise development. And so the next question, I'm posing it to Jonathan from Practical Action. And so we know that Practical Action has been supporting last mile entrepreneurs to ensure availability of clean cooking cook stoves and fuels to the people who need them. So Jonathan, could you tell us what has been your experience, opportunities, and challenges in supporting women entrepreneurs in this ICS and fuels value chain?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, all. Well, at Practical Action, I think in the last 3 years, we've been running a number of programs or projects that support entrepreneurs. And in this case, we've been looking at the highest number being women, because at the center of all of the projects that we do, Practical Action takes a lot of consideration to supporting women, because one, we realize that women bear the biggest responsibility when it comes to providing energy and also cooking. So we've been able to work with a project called Women in Energy Enterprises Kenya, which we've implemented for 3 years. This project worked with 400 entrepreneurs who are women in Kisumu, Kakamega, Siaya, Omabay, and Migori. And what we did as an organization was that we were trying to build their capacities around business management, and again also trying to help them become better business people through working around issues to do with record keeping and also areas to do with customer care and marketing. And we've been able to see a lot of growth in terms of women who actually are doing these kind of businesses as hobbies to creating some very strong businesses. Apart from that, also we've also worked with another project funded by NDEV, that's promoting alternative fuels in Bugoma and Busia, where we were working on 3 value chains. This is pellets, briquettes, and ethanol. And the experience that we have as an organization is that some of these fuels were actually very new to the communities that we worked in. Like, for example, pellets and ethanol. And somehow we were dealing with cultural issues. We are Africans, and somehow some of the entrenched cultural behaviors actually somehow hinder some of these new problems that come on board. And we were able to deal with, or maybe deal with the awareness issue, and we were able to convince the market in terms of starting to accept this kind of product. Currently, I'm working on a GCF project that is in Nakuru, Baringo, Nyandarua, and parts of Kericho, where we are trying to accelerate the sector growth in Kenya by unlocking the potential of last mile distribution channels for ICS through market development and again also support and customer education. And here, some of the experiences that we are facing, one again also touches on the issue of culture again, because there are areas where you do a lot of awareness to men and women, and some of men walk away and say that that's not our business. Maybe we live with you, we leave you with the women to tell them what happens when it comes to cooking. And as an organization that puts gender in the middle or central to all our activities, we've been able actually to try to convince men to start appreciating some of these initiatives, because when we look at the end effect of these initiatives or solutions, actually get to even helping men to save some money when it comes to use of these kind of solutions. Then there are issues to do with even financial access, which we've been able to work with some financial institutions to try to see how we can be able to influence the sector through coming up with tailor-made products that can be able to help our entrepreneurs to grow their business. Because if you go into any financial institutions, the kind of products that we find there are actually products that finance other kind of businesses. But with clean cooking as a new product in their sector, I think you find that there are no specific products or credit products that target this kind of business. So we are trying to talk to the sector to see how we can influence that and make sure maybe that they can consider having products that can serve this kind of sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Now, moving on to look at the role of government in this. We know that the government has fully bought into this area. That is indeed why this event is jointly organized by CCAK with the ministry. So the next question goes to Peter. Please describe the role of the Minister of Energy, the role that the ministry has played in supporting clean cooking initiatives in the country, and also what are the key challenges, opportunities in achieving this very ambitious national goal.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. The Minister of Energy, as you're aware, the country has a target for access to clean cooking by the year 2028, as per in line with the global and local commitments such as SDGs, SE for all, and the NDCs. Now, to achieve this, maybe the Minister has been targeting 4 key aspects of the current cooking sector, such as the sector value chain, and also we look at the conducive enabling environment for business, and as well as strengthening the sector supply chain, and also ensuring that the demand is stimulated for clean cooking solutions. Also, we look at the cross-cutting issues in the sector. This has been done, for example, we have been developing the policy, energy policy, the Energy Act. We have the bioenergy strategy, and the bioenergy strategy action plan that's almost in the final stages of completion. We have also been supporting the sector by maybe reduction of import duties, that is, we propose reduction of import duties, and VAT. We also have been undertaking awareness creation with the BCC strategy, whereby we are reaching to the Kenyans to change their thinking about clean cooking to ensure that they adopt. We have been creating linkages and partnership to ensure that the stakeholders are part of the process. As you're aware, in the national policy and regulatory instruments and the strategies that we have been working on for the clean cooking, we ensure that we have political buy-in to support the sector, and also spur a robust and sustainable clean cooking transition. Also, the ones that we have developed, we are also reviewing those that are already existing and ensuring that we also review and also enforce the regulations and the standards that we develop to promote the market development for clean cooking solutions. And we have been supporting the sector by deploying infrastructure and programming investment that reflect the country's comparative advantages to generate demand priorities in the country by looking at the best positioned clean cooking infrastructure. Maybe like we are moving towards maybe e-cooking using our electricity supply, which is quite adequate. We have been mobilizing the requisite financial resources so to improve the sector, as well as supporting the technology innovations, development, and the partnership. We also, the Minister has been formulating a robust monitoring and reporting framework on the same to ensure that there's effective tracking of the progress of the clean cooking sector. Those are some of the broad areas that have been undertaken. Maybe I can mention a few challenges and also opportunities. It's always lack of maybe a comprehensive clean cooking strategy, but now we are almost working towards that. We may also have partners that are diverse partners operating, but there is no adequate coordination. There's need to do this by tracking the achievement to ensure that this is achieved. There is a perception that the subsector has not received the adequate attention that it requires, and we are working towards that. When we develop the strategy, we will be able to do resource mapping so that we can move the sector. There is also lack of adequate financing mechanism for clean cooking, and we are supporting that to ensure this is done. Some of the opportunities include maybe sustained market intelligence efforts, and the ministry together with the CCK has made the sector to be, have done some surveys to track progress. Also, we have to decide the problems, the problem-driven approaches to ensure that there's focus of adopted approaches by reducing the preferred use of traditional fuels so that we can move the sector forward. And also, another opportunity that may be there is support for technology advancement and business development, as well as strengthening the sectoral coordination of the sector through the ministry and even CCK, as well as maybe facilitation of access to finance and fiscal incentives, especially for the informal sector. Those are some of the areas we have been addressing, among others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Indeed, we know the key role that government needs to play in terms of creating a conducive environment, and key amongst that is the ongoing work on strategy development. I think all eyes are focused on that to see the direction that the government is going to chart, so that then other stakeholders and players in the sector can be able to plug in. And we also know, specific areas that government has also undertaken concrete initiatives, like examples. And talking about that, I would like now to move back to Fred to talk about one of the ongoing initiatives between GIZ and the government through the GCF project. Fred, please talk about the specific objectives of GCF and what is the intended outcome.
Thank you, Chala. Yeah, I think it's the objectives. GCF is, we call it some kind of big animal within the space with so many things it's expected to do. But just to say, the project Promotion of Climate-Friendly Cooking in Kenya, but in short form we call it the GCF project, is implemented in Kenya. We have about 6 or 7 partners doing this. We're doing this together with the Ministry of Energy. We have Practical Action, Energy for Impact, the David Matthew University of Technology, Strathmore Energy Research Center, Strathmore University, KTDF Foundation. We have, among others, within the country. And the biggest goal with the project is, and those of us who understand the cooking space in Kenya, we realize that it's characterized by most of the players within the value chain operate on either small scale. Sometimes we use the term artisanal to describe them. You look at their processes, production processes are too manual or too, sorry to use the word crude for now. And the question is, if you look at these crucial players that we are relying on to transform this sector and be able to achieve some of the targets we have, like the 2028 one, we may never get there. And this was the starting point for the GCF project. So how do we ensure that the value chain as it is achieves some transformation that in our world we call it irreversible at some point? There's a lot of numbering work that went into it, but the overall goal, like Tala, is just to transform the cooking sector in Kenya from where it is to a level where we look at it as professional in some terms, but also where most of the operations and the players in it operate at a level where they can easily access financing in different aspects. But whatever transformation happens at the end of the day, we don't see it reversing back to where we were. So ideally to achieve irreversible transformation within the cooking space in the country. And how we intend to do this is we're looking at it from a value chain perspective, so from the supply side all the way. We are supporting the stock producers in Kenya, for example, to improve their production process. For some of them, we'll mechanize them so that issues around quality, issues around the quantity of what is available in the market are resolved. But just beyond that, supporting the distribution chain, right from the supply side to the end users, working with the different distributors, players in that specific node, just to enhance their capacity, support them go into new markets and be able to ensure that we have more of these solutions out there. But just beyond that, we also want trying to build the capacity on issues around accessing finance. So for the few whose business at a point where they can access credit from finance institutions, we are preparing them to be ready to be able to take advantage of these opportunities once they arise. But the biggest thing, Kitala, with the GIZ project is we're trying to transform the whole sector from both perspectives, from the supply side, the distribution side. We are focusing on issues around access to finance for the players along the value chain. We're looking at the enabling environment around policies and issues within this space. But also just beyond that, there's a specific one that I think all sector players might want to congregate around, issues around knowledge management for the cooking subsector. Something we're really keen on, and with this we're doing a lot of stuff with the Ministry of Energy. And I think as time goes by, we're calling on all sector players as we talk about how do we handle knowledge management within the cooking subsector. We'll call on some of us, or all of you, to participate in these aspects on these meetings. Let's talk about it. We've talked about around regulations within the cooking subsector. Some of us will tell you that a regulation in one side, a regulation can inhibit the growth of a sector. Others will tell you it can operate or come out otherwise. But I think for the Kenyan subsect, for the Kenyan context, for example, and especially with the households, we are saying, do we think we need such a regulation or not? These are some of the questions we're looking to also respond to within the GCF program. Yeah, that would be it for now, Kitala. But I think the goal at the end of the day is there's so many things happening and a lot of areas we can congregate as a sector. One is the national clean cooking strategy that's being developed. We can all come together and ensure that whatever is developed from this process is good for all of us within the sector. Issues around the knowledge management for the sector. We have to come up with a solution once and for all. We can't keep having very crucial reports, data in all over, in places where for you to access it, there's so many obstacles for you to get to them. We need to agree on a place where the sector has a specific one-stop shop with all the required information on the trends within the sector that we need to leverage on. Thank you.
Daisy from True Footprint.
Okay, Daisy.
Thank you. I'm asking about how, so you talked a lot about accessing finance, but there's been no mention of the carbon market or carbon finance that a lot of these companies benefit from. I see Florent nodding, maybe that will be for you.
Discussions. My name is Lillian from Climate Impact Partners. I'll direct my question to Peter from the Ministry of Energy. And my specific question is, when you look at some of these biofuels that we have, like bioethanol, also the likes of LPG, you find that when these kind of projects or programs come, the reception by the locals or the community is usually very good. But from my experience and the interactions from some of these projects that we have here in Kenya, you find that the sustainability of these projects come when you no longer have this fuel available. And one of the main challenges towards this is that there are some government policies or levies that are imposed on either importation or access to these fuels, which in the long term makes this fuel not available or accessible or even affordable to the communities. So what specific measures is the Ministry of Energy doing to intervene on the VAT and also the other levies that are imposed on the fuels so that they can be more affordable and also accessible to the community?
Thank you.
I just want to speak on some of other things that we are doing as an organization. One, it's good that you are appreciating that this kind of products have been using the charcoal dust that had become a menace in most of our towns. Because some few years ago, you could walk around towns, there were a lot of big heaps of charcoal dust. But right now, as you are talking, as you are saying, is that these issues are crawling from our towns, and our towns are getting cleaner because there is no more charcoal dust. And through the innovations that we are doing as a project.
From July of the year that we have just closed, and the ministry is now looking at ways on how we can support the local players to be part of the budget process, because they're supposed to be aligned to it, so that where issues arise, we don't get it as a shock at the end of the process, so that you can participate more, you can petition our Parliament on the issues of taxation, as we plan to increase local production. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Indeed, as CCAK, together with other stakeholders, we've been engaging government. We've made some gains, but also some losses. But I think, yeah, this is a conversation that continues. Our time is almost up, but I would like to see if there is one burning question. I see 3 hands. Let's keep it short and sweet.
Thank you very much. I'll keep this very short.
Information about the cooking sector around. The issue is, I think it's all over, you know. The GIZ has this, SNB has that, prostitution has this and that. The question for us as a sector is, can we try and put this in one-stop shop? That's the concern we have now. But even number 2, the latest study done on the cooking sector in Kenya was done in 2019 by the Ministry of Energy. It was spearheaded by the Ministry of Energy. Since then, there has not been any other updated study to see what has changed over the past 1 or 2 years. These are questions we need to ask ourselves as a sector. How best do we keep track of what's happening? The thing is this, and this now to all of us, we are coming up, the Ministry of Energy is coming up with a national knowledge management strategy, but focusing on the cooking subsector in the country. What will happen at some point is a consultant will be brought on board, you'll be asked to come along to give your inputs, see what they're doing, ensure that whatever you are dealing with or whatever area you're working in is covered within this strategy as a starting point. Another outcome for this study is it's supposed to come up with a knowledge management platform or a knowledge management hub. This is now what we're calling a one-stop shop, where if I want something on bioethanol, just a click on a tab, gives you all the information happening within the country, what are the trends in the past 1 or 2 or 3 years or months or so, and what is likely to happen in the future. So all these things linking to specific provisions we have within the government of Kenya. So the call for me, and as we talk about congregating at some point, is when we call on you to give your input in such platforms, please come in, let's talk about it. So I hope that clarifies or puts some clarification on your end. If you nod, I'll know it's fine. If you don't, I'll know it's not. All right, thank you.
Jonathan, do you want to say anything about the flour waste feedstock? If not, I will comment, but give it a go.
Well, I think I will leave it to you to comment, but I know it is doable. If we had programs dealing with the briquette value chain around that area, we could have come in and tried to see how we can assist. But right now, I think what we're implementing is quite different because we are in ICS around Naivasha, Nakuru, and the surrounding areas. So maybe whoever asked that question, I think I can give him some ideas on what can be done.
Thanks. Maybe also if I can comment on that question from Paul. That as part of the ongoing work on the development of the Kenya National Clean Cooking Strategy, there are 6 studies that are currently ongoing. One of them is looking at alternative fuels. And the organization, the company that is doing that has just submitted the inception report. And if I'm not wrong, among the possible feedstocks they'll be looking at is flour waste. But if that is not included, then you can be sure we will inform the consultants. to look at the opportunities around flour waste as a potential feedstock for and the production of briquettes and pellets. Then on carbon, Tom's question, I think when the first person who raised the issue of carbon financing, I think it was Daisy, I was looking around for a carbon guru in the room, and I didn't see that Tom was there, so it's good, Tom, you have raised that. And I agree with what you have said. I know that possibly this is one area that as a sector we have not fully exploited this as a financing opportunity. And I would feel that perhaps the biggest challenge from the perspective of a CCAK is capacity, that the whole aspect of carbon financing has not been very well understood. And so there's need for that kind of coordination, especially considering the aspect of aggregation that you have alluded to. So I think as CCAK we would be open to that kind of collaboration and to look at how can we build capacity across in the sector so that we can be able to leverage on different opportunities available for carbon financing. Peter?
Yeah, maybe you can mention some to the waste from the farms. A bit of the area, Energy has been involved in some projects with the farms in Isinya, where the biogas plant was put up with technical input from the ministry and also the owners of the farms. And the biogas production was quite well. There's also another farm, Tika, Sibirosis, we have a good unit. And according to the last visit when I was there, I was informed that we were able to save 2 million shillings per month from the electrical bills by generating biogas and also generating electricity from biogas. So those are solutions that are available. Maybe you can recap so that you can guide you to visit those places to learn a bit more. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. So we begin to wind up. I would like to pass this to Myra, not from the perspective of RBF, but a more general question on the issue of collaboration and coordination, having been in the sector for quite some time. Maybe if you can just mention one or two areas of collaboration that you think as we leave this place as the stakeholders, we should not miss on that as your parting shot.
Thank you, Kitaga. I think some of the issues that we really grapple with is a lot of market intelligence. And I'm glad that someone has raised that she's doing a study. So, but I think the funds are quite limited per organization to do some market studies and getting some market intelligence, or what I mentioned before, the market assessment before you start or design your project and start your project. I think that is an area where we can collaborate and get working with coordinating organizations such as CCAK. Instead of working in our silos, we can come together and support organizations like CCAK to generate market intelligence. I know some of the market intelligence, we look at it as proprietary, but I think we need to open up now and move forward and not think of just my business and my study for my profit, but I think there is room for everyone to be able to advance. There is enough market for everyone to be able to get a piece of the cake, if I can call it that. So if we can coordinate, if we can come together, do more structured market intelligence. It's good that, for example, in 2019, we got collaborators, we got GIZ, we got SNB, we got Practical Action, we got people coming together to support the government and CCAK to conduct a sector study. So similar things, as opposed to doing our small things, small studies in silos. Another thing that I think we need to collaborate on is to innovate around consumer incentives, because we've been giving a lot of incentives to private sector, but we are not giving enough incentives to the user. And we need to look beyond the sale of the stove or the sale of the fuel, because when we look at the sale, we are not very sure whether they'll be used. We know sometimes people buy their stoves and keep them in the bedroom and so on. But can we look at incentivizing the use of the product? So that is probably an issue of research that we need to come together. Again, I propose under the umbrella of the association or the government, a neutral organization that can come and look at how do we really incentivize the users to use these products. Something else that, okay, I've mentioned about the consumers. I think moving forward, those are the kind of things that we need to do together. And I'm glad GIZ is talking about a knowledge management hub. I can request the sector players to open up and share information as much as we can. Thank you.
Quite well. The issues around the knowledge management that has been raised earlier by Fred and also raised from the floor. Market intelligence is also kind of linked to knowledge management, and you also talked about the research. The issues around carbon financing, especially including carbon, again, a lot of knowledge we need to generate and share it around that area. So for me, knowledge seems to be one issue that is standing out, and I wish to thank the panelists for sharing their knowledge, expertise, and experiences in this area, and indeed also other contributors from the floor who have raised different perspectives. Time fails us, and so we have to bring it to a stop. So I would like to thank all the panelists for their presence and active contribution, as well as the useful feedback and inputs that have come from the plenary. So shall we give it up to them?